All right, welcome everyone. Today's stream is going to be about testing configuration replacement. So the issue that we have is, got a fresh whiteboard here. Complete configuration replacement. So there's basically two ways that we can do manage configurations on network devices. By the way, let me just make sure that I've got audio coming on. All right, welcome everyone. Okay, I do. Excellent. So managing configurations on network devices. We can modify existing configs. So these are incremental modifications as needed. Or we can completely replace config. A new config is generated every time. Every time. So when we're doing network automation, the right one, the completely replace config, is the easier one to do. The modify existing configs, you run into some limitations. So the reason why we would do that is that if we wanted to do a single source of truth, so we've got something here that is acting as our source of network intent. So a data model. And we pair that with some sort of templating system. So that when we combine the two, they will generate a new config. So this will be a new device config. Now this assumes a couple of things. It assumes that we are working with single configuration file devices. So most of your routers and switch vendors, Cisco, Juniper, Arista, they use a single configuration file for every device. So all of our configuration syntax will be in one place. Whereas something like a load balancer typically will have parts of the configs in different places, or a server generally will have, if it's a server, it'll have its configuration in multiple places in Etsy or whatever. But on a network device, router switch from the various vendors, we're typically involving a single configuration device. So it's easier when we have a device, some sort of router, switch, or whatever. So let's say this is R1, to have whatever is on there just be completely overridden. So in this case, we would just completely overwrite. Overwrite. Complete overwrite. Complete overwrite. So we make the change here, and then it runs it through the template. We get a device config, and then we have some sort of push ability to push the configuration to the device. And the question is, if we do this, I call this the Genesis torpedo method, because if you remember the movie Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, widely agreed upon as the best of all the Star Trek movies, then you remember the Genesis torpedo, and the Genesis torpedo would overwrite whatever was on a planet. So you shoot the torpedo at a planet, whatever's on the planet, hopefully a dead moon, lifeless, it becomes becomes a planet full of plants and oceans and stuff. But if you do it on a planet that has already life existing, it'll just overwrite that. So it'd be a weapon of mass destruction. So we're kind of doing the same thing with these devices. We're just overwrite whatever. We don't care whatever was there. We're just going to replace it. Now the question comes. So the other method is incremental changes. In those, we don't have really a source of truth. We have a task, which is add VLAN 10. And then we can run it through like Ansible, and it will go in, and then we're going to modify existing config. So in this case, the source of truth, I'm going to use a little ribbon here. Source of truth. So the source of truth is the only place we go to make a configuration change. And you only want to have one source of truth, at least for a given part of a config. Because, let me do that. Because if you have competing sources of truth, like let's say I make a modification, I go in and I make add VLAN 10 onto this device, but my source of truth is on my data model. How do I backport that move? It's going to get erased. So the next time I push my config, if VLAN 10 isn't in the source of truth, it's not going to go, it goes into the template, it doesn't come out as a config, and then VLAN 10 will get erased on R1. Whereas here, we're adding the task, but the task is a task that we come up with. We don't really know what's on the device. So if we want to make, is VLAN 10 on R1, I have to check somewhere. If it's already there, it's not going to change anything. It's idempotent. But if we're going to do management of large-scale network devices, we generally will want to have a single source of truth, a centralized data model, like a YAML file that we plug into some sort of templating system like Jinja that spits out configs, and then we can push those configs to devices. That's what Arista AVD does. That's what Jinja templating does in Ansible. So, but the question is, does config replacement disrupt current configs? So that's what we're going to try to answer today, at least with these three network operating systems. I already know the answer for one of them, but I'm just going to demonstrate it. So let's say this router, said that with a Canadian accent, router. Well, they say router. So let's say this router is connected to another router, and we're connected via BGP. So I'm going to use BGP for this, but I think I will also test with OSPF. And so I've got the old config on there. So old config has BGP and VLAN 10. So let's say those are the only things configured on it. Or maybe there's some other stuff, but... And then I've got a new config, and it's the same BGP plus a new VLAN. So when I push this config onto the device, will it disrupt the BGP session? If we want this method of configuration to work, it shouldn't. The network operating system should be smart enough to know to take a look at the old config and the new config and realize that BGP is not changed, so we shouldn't tear down the BGP session and start it up again. But we do know that the VLAN database has changed, so we're going to add a new VLAN. So does config replacement disrupt current configs? I don't know. Well, actually, I do know. So let's make an answer sheet. So answer to question. and we'll put in a table. So this will be the vendor, and does it disrupt config replacements? Disrupt config state. So Arista EOS, it does not. I know this because I've done this many times. So it does not disrupt the configuration state, and I'm going to demonstrate that. But what I don't know for sure is the answer, and I think I know the answer, at least for one of them, is what about Cisco Nexus? I don't know. And then what about for Juniper Junos Evolved? I also don't know, because I know that one the least of these three. So this is important with regard to our strategy for network automation, because I prefer this method. Now there's a third method that it still uses a single source of truth, but there's a separate diff state. So we create a device config, and then we have like a diff engine, a differential engine. Let's call it a diff engine. And the diff engine will come up with, we'll take the old config, on the device, and the new config that we just generated, and come up with commands to reconcile. We send those commands to the device. So I don't like this method because it's more complicated. Because now we have to come up with a differential engine, and that's a little bit difficult for a lot of these devices. Now, there could be ways I could upload it to the device and then do a diff between old file and new file, and then I could use those as commands. So it may not be as complicated as I think, but this is super simple. Actually, this is super simple. I've got a template, I've got a data model, and I run it through the data model. I get a config, and I push the config, and I'm bing, bang, boom, and I'm done. So I prefer this method for the sheer simplicity of it all, and everything goes one way. So for Arista EOS, I know that it does not cause an issue. So I've got my Frankenfabric here. So my Frankenfabric is 4 devices. R1 and R4 are going to be EOS. R2 is NXOS from Cisco. And then R3 is C Junos Evolved, which is really just a container. So I've got this fabric. I'm going to go ahead and start this fabric up. So this will be CLab deploy. And it starts the devices. See if I can come up with a... where's my... Yeah. So this is the configuration that I've got. So I've got 3 routers. There's actually a 4th, but I'm not going to use that one. I've got 3 routers, and I've got them all connected to each other, and they're all running BGP unnumbered. So it'll take a second for them to start up. And I've got configs for them. So R1, R2, R3, and right now they're BGP configured. So with that, and then they advertise each other's loopbacks. So I need a configuration file that will upload the configs. So I need a, let's see, upload config. And I have to do a different play, or different play for each one. So this will be a play for hosts and, a name. Deploy config to R1, Arista EOS. And then tasks, we're going to use the arista.eos EOS configs module. We're using the configs module all around. And I forget the exact documentation for it. So arista.eos EOS config. You specify a source, and that's about it. Okay, so that's all we need to do. So I need to specify the source, which will be configs. And then I could do r1.j2. So that should upload that config there. This will be the initial config. The next one I do to R2. And this one will be for Cisco Nexus. Not Arista, Cisco Nexus. Cisco Nexus, that'll be R2, and that'll be R2. Oh, it's not J2, it's config. I don't know if anyone spotted that. And then, so this will also be Cisco Cisco.nxos.nxos config. It's also config, not configs. And then so that's the Juniper one. Just copy and paste. This is one playbook with 3 plays. And the plays are different because the devices are different. With some formatting problems I forgot to fix. So I apologize if you saw the problems and were like screaming into the screen. All right, so this isn't turning a different color, so this tells me maybe I don't have this one installed. So if I do Ansible Galaxy collection list grep nx. Yeah, I don't have it installed. So I can do Ansible Galaxy collection install Cisco.nxos. I've got an old version of Ansible installed. Let me get the... Oh yeah, I'm using it's the most recent version I can use for 3.9. Crap. So I need to activate a different Ansible. So what I'll do is I'll do source virtual environments 3.11. What's the version of There we go. So let me do Ansible Galaxy collection. So what I did is I activated a different version of Python. So Python 3, I'm now on 3.11. If I go out of the, if I go out of that environment and I do Python, it's 3.9. That's the built-in Python version. That's the system Python version. And you can't really upgrade the system Python version because it's based off of, in this case, it's based off Enterprise Linux 9 or Alma 9, which is 3.9. So, but I can but I can have multiple versions of Python installed. But in order for me to use all the modules from the new version of Python, I have to use something called Python environment. So I'll do that. So source. Oh yeah, ZSH. Source, home directory, virtual environments, bin 3.11 for Python 3.11, bin activate. All right, so now I'll do Ansible Galaxy collection list grep NXOS. And I do have it installed there, so I'm good. So I was just using the wrong version of Python, of Ansible. So Ansible Galaxy version. What version of Ansible am I using? Ansible Core 2.18, perfect. That's what I want. All right, so oh yeah, I'll select the environment. I'll use that one. Now it's highlighted correctly. Okay. So I'll do Ansible Galaxy collection or Ansible playbooks where am I? Oh yeah, go to Ansible playbooks, upload config. So this should upload these configs. Oh, I want to switch that to R3, of course. So I'm running this playbook, see what happens. Okay, got R1 good. Let's see about R2. Okay, cool, good. So if I do show BGP summary or show BGP EVP show BGP show IP BGP summary. I do have it established with one of my neighbors, which is show LDP neighbors. All right, cool. I've got BGP set up. So everything's working correctly. So the question is, what if I change the config? So for R1, I'm going to add another loopback. Or where does VLANs go in the VLAN database here? Let's find out. So SHR1, oops. SHR1. VLAN 10. Where does it go? Just under system L1. Okay. So system L1. Between that, we'll have VLAN 10. I'm going to add a new VLAN. So this is going to change the existing VLAN database from what it is currently. And I'm going to do these one at a time. So let me go to R2. See if I can do watch one. Yep, I can. So watch one, show IP BGP summary. Watch show IP BGP summary. There we go. What I'm looking for is the up state. So right now it's up. It took a little bit longer for Junos to come up, but they're both up. So 1.1, this is the partner here. So my understanding, my expectation, because I've done this so many times, but you know, you always could be surprised, is one upload.yaml. I'm going to make a directory for playbooks. Put that in there. Now this is going to do a complete config replacement. So when I run this playbook R1, oh, I put it in backups. I want to put it in playbooks. There we go. And we're going to watch. So I'm on R1 here. I'll also do watch one show VLAN. So I got VLAN 10 there. I've got my BGP session here. So when I do this, what I'm going to see is VLAN 20 is going to get added, and the session will not change. So this is the session right here. Is a BGP session with R1 and R2. So let me upload this config. Source not found. Oh yeah, because I ran it. Where am I? Ansible configs r1.config. That's path problem. Yeah, it's path problem. So there's VLAN 20, and the connection is still up. So we did not. I completely replaced the config. So there was no diff or anything. I just sent it a new config. I told EOS, this is your new config. And it auto figured out that just because we changed one part of the config, the other parts didn't change. So the BGP session was up. That I already knew. So, and I wasn't surprised, luckily. Sometimes you're like, oh, I know this thing is for sure. And then you get surprised. So that I knew. For... let's try changing something with the routing protocol. Like there are some things if I did change, I'm sure it actually would tear down the session, but it'd have to be directly related to that. I'm gonna do neighbor interface at ETC4 Ethernet 4 group R4. And try to, it's not going to work. Let's see if that actually disrupts the change. Oh, I didn't like something. Oh, maybe you can't do that. Anyway. Peer group R4. There's a syntax error. Oh, maybe I don't have an ETC4. Oh yeah, I don't have an Ethernet 4, that's why. What can I do? Oh, you know what? I'll just do this. I'll take out R4 entirely. So I'm modifying the BGP config, and I'm taking out R4 entirely. Does that affect my established session that's already there? Okay, so the change happened. Let me just see if the config changed. Oh, it's still there. Oh, did I get... So, yeah. So, R1 upload. Configs R1. Oh, I didn't set it for replacement. That's why. Okay. It's good I'm checking this. Ah, yeah. The replace config. Replace config. I think I've done that before. So Lime would just add stuff, I think. Well, maybe not. Maybe I've got this all wrong. Yeah, it would add stuff, not remove it. So, like, for example, it'd be nice if it would do a diff. Maybe I could do a diff. Block config. So, like, if I get rid of VLAN 20 there, what will it do? Didn't do anything. Show VLAN. Yeah, so I've got to do a replacement. Replace config. All right, so this should remove the R4 part and remove VLAN 20. The question is, will it reset the TCP connection or the BGP session? Looks like it didn't, which is the expected behavior. So I did do a complete config replace, and it did not disrupt the BGP parts. All right, so again, that was the expected behavior for Arista EOS, because I've done this literally thousands of times in the classes I've taught for Arista. What about with NXOS? I don't know. So let me do an R1 upload for NXOS, or R2 rather. So I'm going to create a new file called R2 upload.yaml. And I'll take this play here. Replace config. So here's our R2. I've added a couple VLANs. And here, again, if my session were torn down, I would see it here. So let's go ahead and do R2 upload. This I don't know. I don't know if Cisco, if the network operating system is smart enough to realize that even though the entire config is being replaced, to just modify what has changed. Source isn't found. Oh, yeah. Replace source. So this syntax is a little bit different. So let's go find that. NXOS. Most of the vendors have a config module that can be used to replace configs. All right, so yeah, so replace source is different. So we'll do replace source. Let's try that. Config replace, configs R1, invalid URI path. I don't know what that means. Try that. R2 upload, and then I'll just do R2 config, make it local. Oh yeah. Yeah, I can't do that. Try that. Replace config. Invalid URI path. Don't know what that means. So I will Google it. Let's look for examples here. Yeah, we can do the diff, and maybe I could do that, but replace config with a flat file. That's what I did. Replace source and replace. Replace source. Configs, R2 config. That's the config. Oh yeah, let me do, I'll just run this command with a couple of extra V's and see what the error looks like. See if I can get some more. Invalid URI path at the marker. Plugins, network in load config. Maybe once a full path, like a actual path, instead of this relative path. So let's see. Gnosis file directory. Okay, so home, nerd, Autobox, Franken, Fabric, Ansible, configs, R2 config. How are you not seeing that? No such file directory. Copy. Why can't you see that? See if anyone sees this error. All right, so we may not be able to answer this one. Let's go ahead and punt and go for R3. So this Ansible is not working the way that it should be working. And we'll do that. So upload R3. We'll also check the syntax, make sure I got the right syntax for Juniper. Hello, Avdesh. Hello, Worldwide Music. Reminds me of Step Brothers, Prestige Worldwide. Boats and Hose. Okay, so update, overwrite. So update, overwrite. Override or overwrite? Override. Well, I guess we'll do merge. That's the default. And we need a source, and we need to set the source format, which is JSON, I think. No, I think it's text. So the default format, the native configuration syntax is this. It's kind of like JSON. It's not really JSON. I don't know what it's called for Junos. Is this? So let me run the playbook and see. So we got been up for 20 minutes there. I'm just going to upload the same config and see if there's any difference, if I can do it. Path. Oh yeah, path to source not found. That's all right. Dot. All right, so there was no change in it, so it didn't do anything. And the session, this was the one right here. That's 1.2. That's connected to the Juniper device. So I want to. Let's see if we can figure out how to add a VLAN in here. Or maybe I'll just, let me do another change. I'll do a change where I'm adding a loopback. Excuse me. Be right back. I'm going to grab some water. All right. Got soda water. More seltzer water than man. I just spilled some. All right. So back like 20 years ago, I used to drink a lot of soda. Like Coca-Cola. They had Line Coke for a little while. It was like my favorite. So I could do it in my 20s. But now in my 40s, my late 40s, I cannot handle that much sugar. All right, loopback 0. So let's add another loopback interface. This is the native configuration syntax for Arista, for Junos. All right, so let's do a total config replacement. Didn't like my syntax. Operation failed. Device outside range 00. So what did I do wrong? You know what? Let me do this. I'll just change the address. That'll be a change. All right, so I made a change. Did it disrupt the... Nope, did not. So at least we made one change where the session didn't go down. I'm going to do something else just to make sure that my testing methodology is correct. I think so if I go to R2 or R3 and it's admin, to do show LDP neighbors. So I'm testing off of R2, I believe. Yeah, R2. So I'm connected to R2 off of Ethernet 00. So I'm going to delete this, re-upload, and it should go down. Oh, it's not doing the config replace. It's just adding. So nothing changed. So if I do show configuration, my dynamic what was it? What did I change? I think I changed something I didn't. So protocols router advertisement. Well, yeah, so protocols router advertisement, it's still there, even though I removed it from here. It did not do a complete config replacement. Damn, man, this is more complicated than I thought it was going to be. Oh yeah, so update, replace. So I think I'll do that. Update, replace. So we're replacing the config. Okay. I want to put that thing back. So there it is. And I'm going to change the router ID to something else. We'll change the loopback to something else. Change it to 1. And then we'll see if it actually does the... All right. All right, did the config replace happen? It looks like it did. Let's see if I change the LO0 to... Oh, it added it. The heck? I said replace. Override discards the entire candidate and replaces it with a loaded config. Replace substitutes each hierarchy level and the loaded configuration with the corresponding level. Update is similar to the override option. The new complete configuration completely replaces the... Maybe update? Wait, update. Update. Yeah, that's weird. All right. It's YOLO. Okay, it looks like it changed something. All right. That was changed. And let's see if the session is still up. Session is still up. Okay, so it looks like complete config replacement works in EOS or in Junos. Now let's do some more modifications. I am going to remove one of the, again, which was it? Show LDP neighbors. So R2 is on Ethernet 000. So I'm going to remove this. So that should actually take this down. Yep, it's closing. And this will put it back up. All right, that looks good. And I can do something else. How do I configure a VLAN on Junos? All right, I'm going to do this, copy this. So we'd go onto the device and go to configure and set, and then commit and quit. Show configuration, display, show configuration. Yeah. VLANs. Okay, perfect. That's what I wanted. So to see if I can modify the VLANs config, so the VLAN database is a little bit different than I'm used to. That's okay. Oops. So let's do that. We'll upload it. I've got new VLANs. So do show VLAN. Okay, so that's the name of the VLANs, and then it did not take down the session. Okay. So I have two answers, at least. Complete config replacement. So no, for Junos, it does not disrupt the configuration state, at least the ways that I've tested. Nexus, I still don't know because the NXOS config thing is being very weird. So let me, I'll do pip3 Ansible Galaxy collection. Install NXOS Cisco.NXOS update force. See what we'll get. Make sure we get the most recent version. try that again. Ansible playbook. R2 upload. Config replace. No such file directory. Maybe it's looking for it. Oh, maybe it needs me to upload it to the device. Because that file's there. Pickle Surprise says this is so bad for this. You might be right. What I found is that the quality of these modules differs wildly between the different vendors. For Juniper, I found a bug in one of their modules, and I submitted an incident or submitted an issue with it in GitHub, and then I ended up having to fix the thing myself with some Python code. The only problem is I didn't know how to integrate it in with their testing their molecule. So they actually did that for me, but I had actually submitted the code. It was 3 lines of Python, so it was super easy. It was barely an inconvenience.
You sure about that?
Actually, it's going to be super easy. Barely an inconvenience.
So the problem it did was it was OSPF interfaces. And the problem was, like, if we wanted to do point-to-point. So interface type, it didn't actually render any configuration change for interface type. It just ignored it. So it's stated here in the data model, in the module, but there was no actual code to do anything with it. So I wrote the code. It was just 3 lines of Ansible. 3 lines of Python. Yeah, so congrats on being a maintainer. I would hardly describe that as a maintainer, but yeah, I did make some, I did actually write the code, but it was like 3 lines of Python. It was super, super easy. I'm a decent Python scripter. I don't know if I would consider myself a Python programmer, but I can do some scripts pretty well. So that was one thing. So NXOS is the other thing. Can we, so that'd be under the Cisco namespace. And then NXOS. See if there's an issue tracker for this. No, it doesn't look like it. I don't see anything in there, but it was config module. Let's see, maybe I didn't read the documentation well enough, which is certainly a possibility. The replace source argument provides path to the configuration file to load into the remote system. This argument is used to replace the entire config with a flat file. This is used, the argument replace in the value config. This is mutually exclusive with line and source arguments. So maybe that's the problem. It's just not on there. Replace config with a flat file, replace source. So maybe this has to be on the device itself. So maybe oh, you know what? Okay, so let's combine the two. So maybe this is me just not reading carefully enough. So source. So source is that. And then replace source is candidate.txt. Maybe? Oh, they're mutually exclusive lines replace source. So maybe there? Replace is config, but all of the following missing replace source. Replace config. Check the module in a way to perform the configuration of the device. If the argument is set to line, then the modified files are pushed to the device in configuration mode. If the replace argument is set to block, then the entire command block is pushed. Replace config will only work with NXOS versions that support config replace. Maybe that's the problem. Can we do a config replace? Is there a way I can just push a config file onto the local file system? Is there a file? Yeah, file copy. So maybe I need to push the file on there first. Yeah, so let's give that a little whirl. Just to get this on the local file configs r2.txt. Replace with me.txt. And then I'll just comment this out for now. So see if I can get this onto the device. Local file config. Oh, it's CFG, not TXT. Local file. Okay, so it's on there. So I'll be on R2 with all my BGP sessions, and I'll do dir. Replace with me.txt. Okay, cool. So next, so maybe this is a two-parter. Replace source is replace with me.txt. No whammies, no whammies, no whammies. Seem to be okay. Show VLAN. It's 10 and 20. Okay, so that's promising. Let's add VLAN 30. And then I need to replace config. All right, so that was what, okay, so that was a very different process. So it was a two-step process. And if I do show IP BGP summary, we can see that the TCP sessions were not disrupted. I'm going to add for R2, I'm going to add a new loopback. Let's see if we do a total config replace, if it affects that. Does not appear to affect that. All right, so at least from my testing, and I would not say these are completely involved testing. Like I didn't test every possible scenario, but it looks like for these 3 network operating systems from these 3 vendors, you can do a complete config replace and Genesis torpedo that stuff, and it will not disrupt unaffected parts of the configuration state. So that was my goal. Yeah, Pickle, you're right. Yeah, you have to. So I assumed it would do both things at the same time, and I just haven't done a lot with NXOS in a while because I've been spending most of my time in EOS. So I kind of expected them all to. I don't know why I expected them all to be the same, but so they were slightly different quirks. So they all did slightly different things. Like update, that's kind of weird. And then, yeah, so I thought the syntax was going to be the same or the parameters required for each module were going to be the same or similar, but the process was slightly different. Yeah, EOS is great. You know, like check this out. I've got, so sudo docker ps. Or it's Docker stats. EOS uses like very little CPU and very little memory. So R1 and R4, these are both EOS containers in Container Lab. And they're fantastic because they use up about like a gig or so, and they're barely sipping off the CPU. And NXOS is using up 8.6 gigs and eating 40% of the CPU. But the worst offender is Junos Evolved, which for one is not really a container. It's actually a container that contains a virtual machine running in KVM. And it's eating up not quite as much RAM as the NXOS VM, but it is chewing up way more CPU. So Pickle, I was able to get with an 80 gigabyte VM with, I think I had 10 virtual CPUs, 80 gigs, 10 virtual CPUs. I could run a 60 node fabric of containerized EOS leaf spines. So 3 spines, 50 leafs, couple border leafs, couple other devices. So like 60 devices. So containerized EOS is really, really cool. So thanks for everyone's help. I think I'm going to wrap things up here. Yeah, so I should definitely upload these to a GitHub repo. So let me do that. I'll just do that before I stop here. So GitHub, sign in. Do I have a passkey? I gotta do some stuff. Okay. Do I want to? I'll put this under Tech Talk Tuesdays. Maybe I'll make this a Tech Talk Tuesday. So, add. Crud. How do I want to do this? I just want to upload some files. Do. Create new file. there's not really a good way. How do I like do some file editing? Like I need a new directory. How do I make a directory? Add file. I guess I could just clone it. That's fine. I'll do that. Let's try and for like a quicker way. Make directory temp tech talk. Then copy dash RP. Frankenfabric, and then Ansible here. Okay. And make sure that there's nothing secret under config replace. Yeah, I think that works. Okay, so I'll just do git add git commit git push origin main. There we go. That wasn't too bad. All right, I'll put this into the description for the video. Specifically config replace if you want to follow along at home. Oh, you're a skydiver. Cool. You licensed, Pickle? Not yet. Okay. Cool. Yeah. I'm not an instructor right now, but I have taught lots of people. I've done AFF as an AFF instructor. I just did an event just outside of Chicago where we did 250 people from 11 airplanes. That was a lot of fun. Did AFF and indoor. Yeah. Cool. That's awesome. Yeah. I've got almost 2,200 now. I think I'm coming up in 2,200 jumps. So I've been doing this for 13 years now, I think. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you for everyone joining me for this little journey here, and thanks for your inputs. And so I've got all the playbooks and stuff. They're in a GitHub repo. I might move it to somewhere else, but if I do, I'll update the video description, the link in the description. But other than that, thank you for watching. It's good when things go kind of the way I was hoping they would go. So I've definitely had some, like, I thought I knew what the outcome would be, and then I ran into all these roadblocks, but that one worked well. Yeah. So also Pickle, I will have a suggestion for you. I've got a repo called Project Nerd. So it's called the Autobox, and it's just a set. All it is a set of instructions. I'll put that in the chat. It's a set of instructions that will build you a VM. So if you can make a VM that has 4 virtual CPUs and 16 gigs of RAM, so whatever hypervisor you want, as long as it's x86 based, it'll build you this topology, and it'll run it in containerized EOS. So you've got this simple topology, 2 hosts, 4 leaves, 2 spines, and an external router. And it'll run in this little of resources. And you can do all sorts of labbing with it. So this tells you how to install the stuff. And then there's some topologies. I've got huge. That's the 50 leafs. And then I've got medium. So if you want to play around with containerized EOS, that's, I think, the best way. Because you can do it at home. You don't have to go to Arista to do it. So anyway,